are listening to the Slash and Cast Podcast Network. Enjoy the show.
All right, folks, welcome to the Monsters, Madness, and Magic Podcast. Justin here with a quick word. In this episode, I chat with voice and screen actor Lawrence Bayne about Pink Floyd, XMen the animated series, voicing cable, Disney, and more. And if you feel so inclined, please leave us a review wherever you're listening to this. Helps us on the internet and algorithms and all that good stuff. Anyway, without further ado, here you go.
Greetings, boils and ghouls. This is your comrade, the Crypt Keeper here, reporting dead from the sanctuary of the strange. Tonight's macabre myth is a fright-filled feature, one overflowing with monsters, madness, and magic.
Take us back in time. When you were a kid, what sort of things were you into? You know, were you a big reader? What's the scoop?
I was big into words. My parents pushed books on me in such a way. I invented a book generating a machine with my bed. I wrote down as many words as I knew at the age of 7, and that was quite a few, and on individual pieces of paper. Then I stuck them underneath the springs of my bed. Then I would jump on the bed, then I would reach under and pick up the paper that got dislodged and make a sentence out of it.
Wow, that's impressive.
That was the first computer, I guess, I had.
For a 7-year-old.
Yeah, a little bit advanced in the old reading comprehension stuff. It hit me early, and my parents were great in that they let me read just about anything.
So when you do look back, well, what were some of your favorite things to read or watch back during those years?
I liked mob stories. I liked organized crime stuff. Probably around age 13 or 14, I did a school project on the Roaring Twenties, which included, a 1920s wax album that my aunt had, a fiction about being Capone's wheelman, participating in the first drive-by shooting, which happened in Chicago. And I was a big fan, and I did this whole project on it, and it sat for many years under glass in display at the Central Library in Toronto because I won a prize for being so into prohibition and stuff.
Man. So is it around the same time that your interest in the arts sort of arose?
That's the Beatles. That's Ed Sullivan. And also, as it happens, I lived above the movie theater that premiered A Hard Day's Night in Toronto in 1966. The theater was really directly just below us. And for an entire summer, pretty much couldn't sleep until the last show was done because girls were lining up and going into the theater and screaming for the entire length of the Mark Lester film, not giving a shit about the movie, and certainly not being able to hear the songs all that clearly on a 8x10 cloth-covered speaker that supplied all the sound for the film. All I heard were girls' screams. Probably had something to do with my formative years as well, as a bad guy and a thug, and
You cut your teeth early.
I did. I cut my teeth on a lot of things early. I'm ready to go, man.
Were you a theater kid? Did you ever join a drama class or anything like that? Did your parents have any kind of interest?
I'm going to talk about excelling in that. I was in grade 9. It was the last full grade that I actually participated in. I saw the grade 12 theater group doing something, and it was mime, and I just sort of vamped in front of the stage they were on in between a show, and they called me a smartass, and I got to join the grade 12 drama club for the 3 months that I was left in my life as an academic. Mime absolutely took me. School took us on a class trip to see Marcel Marceau, and he blew my mind. And that's the first thing I started performing. I started doing mime My mother and father were both deeply involved in the Scouts, Boy Scouts of Canada. I would go in and entertain the beavers and the cubs, doing my little mime shtick. And then I would sort of ratchet it up on adults, and I'd go down to the Yonge Street Mall, which used to be a very cool place to hang out. And I would do mime there on the streets with a hat in front of me, and at which night's end there would be money and joints and pills and phone numbers in it. So started getting paid pretty early too.
Hey, you can't beat that. That's what it's all about.
No, good night. It was a good night. A good night was had.
So a lot of actors that I speak to are folks that work a lot in the voiceover community, usually point to things like mime or improv being more important than, having a great voice or being a mimic. Would you say that's fair to say?
I think I got into voice about 3 or 4 years after I was officially signed up with an agent, and I'm sure a lot of people would have been happier if I'd stayed a mime. One doesn't have to do with the other. Obviously, you're not working on your voice skills when you're doing mime. I was, doing rock and roll and singing and my best friend and writing songs when we were 12 and until last weekend. We're still doing it. But my voice, I was sort of noticed by a casting director in Toronto, Kim Herden. I was sitting on the porch of the Black Bull patio, and I was holding court, or fourth at least, with my table, in loud drunken tones, but still in this wonderful mellifluous baritone that you're hearing here. And I wanted to be in voice, and I asked my agent to hook me up with somebody, and it ended up that this woman had already sort of heard me at the bar and agreed to have me audition for something. And it was for Hyundai, and I bagged it. First audition out of the gate. And I've been doing voice ever since, and that's now 45 years. I learned on the job, man. I think that's where you should learn it, because acting is coming in and with a whole lot of preconceptions, most of which you have to kick the shit out of to do your job at some point or another. You learn about mic technique on a mic, and if you've got good people, kind people, and you are a good and kind person to work with, they'll share their secrets with you. It's a very generous community, the voiceover community. And the people who work in the engineering, they just love a guy who they can get along with. They're already dealing with clients who at some points in my career have been absolutely absurd caricatures of human beings. The guy who's just scrubbing his nose every 30 seconds and it's quarter to fucking 11 in the morning, and the guy's just whiny because he hasn't slept in 2 days. Because he thinks he's being creative, telling you to make the next take more orange and shit like that. So you learn on the job, and mostly I remember I had an easel with my work on it, and I was getting frustrated with the guy. He wanted me to say Stouffer's Lean Cuisine again and again and again, and I'm talking almost up into the triple digits. Stouffer's Lean Cuisine. And the engineer came in because he saw that steam was shooting out of my ears. Came in, he said, I just need to fix something. And he winks at me. He says, "You're off, mic, man." He said, "I'm just going to fix this easel for you so that you can put your hand behind it and do this every now and then, just so you can get through the session, okay? Smile, but do this right behind there, like that." That was the best acting advice I ever got for voice work. Commercials are hard, of course. They're the hardest thing to do because, there's a phalanx of people. I remember even back in the old days, like 10 people sitting and they're talking to each other. And now there's 10 people talking to 20 people on laptops and cell phones as you do your work. And it's, they give you options like in these interviews, do you want to be on camera or not? And mostly I don't want to be on camera. But for voice work, I especially don't want to be on camera.
Right.
And sometimes give you that option, and I will take it every time. Yeah, I'm not here for you to dislike my glasses. I'm here for you to dislike my voice. So I generally cut it off. But when you're there in the studio, you look at the work in front of you and you smile. And you do as you're told. That's not. I don't have any resentment against that. That is the gig, man. You do as you're told in the advertising world. You do as you're told in almost every creative sphere. But there can be some collaboration sometimes. When you're working on a series or working in a film or even working on a regular, animated thing, there can be collaboration.
Yeah.
But you shouldn't count on it. You shouldn't count on it at all. But in the advertising gig, there is no collaboration. You do as you're told. So, and getting angry about doing what you're told, you're not going to last long in this biz.
Right. Would you say more times when you have a voice director that is more eager to let you riff kinda and maybe put on some input, it's more fun and everybody ends up having a better time and the work is better?
I would think so, yeah. I mean, and you have to be just as polite. You know, you have to put up your hand after you've done a take and say, can I take a shot at it? Something, can I throw some paprika on that, or can I put something in this and try it again? And if they'll say, no, we're happy with what you have, then be happy that they're happy. That's all that can be said about that. But if they say, sure, give it another shot, and you do it, and they go, okay, thank you, and they like it or they don't like it. Sometimes, the casting directors will hold their own opinions really tight to their chest, because remember, they're just a conduit to the client anyway.
Right.
So they can't be going, that was great, man, because they've got to be going, that was great, right? That person over there has to nod their head sagely, and then they can come back and tell you that you were great. Just a chain of command, or as we call it, the shit rolls downhill syndrome.
So we can't just gloss over your rock and roll days you just mentioned there. What kind of stuff are you guys playing?
I called it R&B goth. Music you can die to. It's got a beat you can die to. It was dark stuff. I mean, I can do with the two collaborators that I work with, we can pretty much do all genres because they're brilliant. Me imitating, some vocal stylings is one thing, but you've really got to have a band. And I've had two collaborators over the last 40 years, basically, same people over and over. Been into various bunch of bands. Gee, an actor with a band, who'd have thunk it? But it was fun, man. I mean, I like doing it because it's my words out there. I mean, I'm writing poetry and writing a book as well, and I'm stomping those grounds. But rock and roll and writing lyrics, I really love writing a good lyric, and I sure like belting it out.
How did you eventually land that first big break onto the screen?
I was very hungover one Saturday. Sitting with my friend Steve, again, a collaborator, and we had a night among nights, and we were crawling around with cobwebs in our head about 11 o'clock on Saturday morning. And I was called by my first ever theatrical agent, and, put a little context on that. My first ever theatrical agent didn't do fucking anything for me. Like, not one call, nothing, ever. And I'd been signed up for about 6 months. And then they called on a Saturday, which I thought was, really? Would you like to go to a video audition? And I didn't know what that meant, to be honest. I said, you have a video audition? Yes, it's for a rock video. And I said, okay, who's it for? And my friend is close enough to hear the phone. He said, it's for Pink Floyd. And he's like, you gotta go, you gotta go, you gotta go. I didn't want to go, man. I didn't want to go.
Oh, God.
I was so hungover and so fucked up. I didn't want to go. He says, you got to go, man. So that's what made my career. I went down and I auditioned for the Pink Floyd video, Learning to Fly, and I got it. The audition process was nearly enough to make me just want to quit everything. I got there, as I said, hungover, and there was a big waiting room, and there was about 100 people in it, and about 30 of them were children under the age of 10. I probably started thinking vasectomy right around then. It was just a tumult. And I was there way longer than I should have been. Of course, they were running behind. And when I finally did get in the room, there was another long table set up, kind of Last Supper-like, with this guy in the middle who was clearly emanating authority. His name was Storm Thorgerson. He designed the albums for Yes, Not Fragile, stuff like that. Director, and he directed me in the video. At this audition, he was ignoring me totally. So I went into a mime lean, and then I started drinking mime drinks. And looking at people and cheering them and just ignoring the people. And so finally he said, hello? And I looked over and went, oh, me? He goes, yeah. Because what's your name? I said, Lawrence. Well, thank you, Lawrence. I go, yeah, fuck you. Thank you, Lawrence. I hadn't done anything. Goodbye. I got called back, much to my surprise. My friend, by the way, was very pissed. I went home and said, I told him to fuck off. What'd you do that for, man? You should have, come on. I got called back, and Storm himself met me at his hotel room, which kind of spooked me for a minute or two. But Thorm is a straight up above head guy, but no problems. But I was like, really, I got to go to a hotel room now? So down to the Chelsea Delta I go in Toronto, and I meet Storm, and he wants to do some acting games with me, which I love so much. He said, take my key, leave the room, come back like it's your room, and then you discover me there. I just want to see your reaction. So I left the room. I came back in. I used his key to open the mini bar, knowing he was right there. Poured a little bottle of Jack, and I drank it. Then I turned and I saw him, and I threw the keys at his head. And he said, "Cut," and then he hired me. Had a great time. He was an irascible Cockney brute, and a lot of fun. And we flew 3,000 feet above sea level and shot that video. And it was a weekend in Calgary, but we were shooting in Black Diamond. I went up in a biplane for the first time in my life. I was in a glider and was learning to fly. I went up in a helicopter. I'd never been in any of these flying machines before. And it was a lot of fun. And once that video hit, started getting awards, worldwide play, I went to a real agent, said, "This is what I have. I'm not talking, but this is me." And that was Carrie Follis, and I was with Carrie. She was my agent for 19 years. I retired her.
So is it safe to say that you had no musical interest in Pink Floyd at the time?
I love Pink Floyd, man. I mean, I love Pink Floyd. I just knew that the video wasn't going to be me hanging out with Pink Floyd. I knew that. As it turned out, I kind of did, because we came back to Toronto and they did 3 concerts in a row at the CNE, and I was in the hotel room for 3 days in a row partying with the boys.
Oh, shit.
All I'm prepared to share.
How about I say, do you remember most of that?
I remember it all. I'm like Keith Richards that way, man. I remember it all. It can be a bit much. Sometimes I'll think of shit I've done and gone, "You're just lucky to be sitting here drawing breath, buddy."
How did the opportunity for X-Men eventually come about for you?
I think I was already I was just basically hired to do some utility voices on X-Men TAS back in the day. And then Dan Hennessy invited me to do the voice of Cable. And Cable took off, both with the fans and with, the people who were running X-Men at that point. It wasn't the mouse at that point, but it was somebody. I'm a utility voice, man. I can do a fair amount. I've got a good range of voices and timbres and stuff that I can do. So it just sort of came to me that, I'd get utility pickup work, but it's an unremarkable story. I know X-Men is just fucking huge now, and I love it. The resurgence for me hasn't hurt, but certainly not as exciting as the Pink Floyd video. Just going in and doing a tough guy voice. Yeah, that's about it. And animation and all animation is kind of like that now. You go in and you give them their take on what they've asked for, and then, you get to do your own take, especially if you've, been in the business long enough, I guess. They sort of let us old dogs have our bark, and then they compare it to what they want. On we go, or on we don't.
Now, were you given a good bit of direction for Cable, or were you allowed to kind of go in there?
No, Cable was just basically me without the swearing. I did Cable really, really conventionally. There was, and you have to understand that the folks at TAS were looking for actors when they were looking for voice, and the voice business at that point was just slowly being infiltrated by actors, because prior to that, it was the province of FM DJs, some theater actors who got into it. But mostly in-house radio commercials, in-house television commercials were done by the announcers at the station. It's only when ads themselves became less announcery. The 1945 Monza is now, some guy talking about the 1945 Monza over a drink, So we're all supposed to be conversational now. It kind of makes us seem more real.
So, speaking of the mouse, did you show up to your audition of the famous Jet Jackson in the same state as the Pink Floyd audition?
No. I was, you know what? Again, that was something I was just given. You keep hitting on these ones that are so funny, because Jamie Paul Rock is a producer and saw me on Nikita and deduced that every time the cameras rolled or stopped rolling, I was actually funny. I wasn't dark and nasty as the auditions that I get. So I was just given this role of Dr. Hiponato, who wore 6-inch platform shoes and purple lame suit. And oddly enough, I was brought to set, I was put in this outfit, and the outfit spoke. I was not on set for another 3 hours and actually getting a little pissed, but like I said, they gave me the job. So standing there in this ridiculous ensemble, waiting, I came up with this guy, Dr. Hiponato, who was a cross between Paul Lynde and Sam Kinison. He could be very, very nervous, and he could also yell very loud, which I won't do for the sake of your eardrums or mine. But no, Jet Jackson was great. Plush Mr. Pudding was my little creature. He's in the other room right now. And I got to write a song on it. And I still get, 40 cents in checks from songwriting royalties from the Mouse long before I was. Yeah. So I wrote a song for them. And Dr. Hiponato was a lot of fun. He was obviously gay, I thought. But the Mouse would not let me play that too much. He was obviously a really shitty father because I had a son, a wonderful actor, whose name I will forget. He was somewhat overweight, but he shaved his head for the role to look like my son. And I said, if I had something I'd do, I said, you gotta have that kid. And I used to pick him up by his ear and go, come with me in a scene. And the Mouse came down on me for that too. He said, you can't be beating up your kid. I said, I browbeat him with every word I say, but I can't touch his ear? No, okay. The gay pride thing was happening one weekend, and I was filming that very role, and I used to take a deck chair up on top of the honey wagon and sit up there because I could see the 401, and I'd be waving in my purple outfit with a rainbow sign welcoming everybody to the gay pride thing. And the Mouse said I couldn't do that either.
You're kind of already touching on my next question. I was going to ask, since it's Disney, are they overly involved, to be nice about it?
They're as involved as they have to be in these times. I can't fault them for wanting to keep a tight ship. Certainly when you don't these days, people are prone to telling lies, basically. I think Disney's doing the smart thing, sensitivity training and making sure that you know what their landscape is like. I think there are some places where you go and you'll discover that it's not to your liking, but Disney leaves no mystery at all. You are safe there. Should you fuck up, they've got it right there somewhere going, see, right here, right there. That's what you did. Out. I don't mind making fun of the Mouse. They can take that, but I won't disparage not for holding these rules so tight and wanting to make sure that their staff and their people and the people like us that they hire are all on the same page. We're all polite Canadians up here, but most of us agree that we wouldn't do that stuff anyway. I've never run into a particularly monstrous sexist or racist on a film set, and if I did, I'd be the first one to call them out on it.
Right.
I mean, this is the thing. I wouldn't run to the Mouse to say he did that. I'd walk them over and say he looks like that because he did this. There's nobody doing that on my watch, and certainly none of the ensembles I've worked with. I never met a bad egg among them, to be honest. You have to meet important people to find out that they're reprehensible. Well, all us people working in the salt mines and doing our daily gigs and being journeymen, which is how I see myself. You respect your area, man. You don't shit where you eat. You don't, you don't piss off your colleagues, and you don't speak to them as if they're anything less than that.
So at the same time that, you're doing the X-Men, Canada is booming in the voice acting realm. What was the catalyst for that, do you think, back in those days? I think it was Toronto was the epicenter for a lot of voice work.
We went from like 3,000 people across Canada to 3,000 in Toronto in the space of 2 summers, that we're doing voice. The reason is because Toronto is just a hotbed of really talented people. There's no other way to put it. The theater and the acting and the people, and I don't know how else to put it. I'm always blown away by Toronto talent. I always understand why. We're at the forefront of that. Voice work in Toronto went along really well because I think from the American point of view we were cheap, but from the overall point of view it was a large pool even then to choose from. But now it's staggering. There's a lot of people doing it. I finally hit that arc where they're going, get somebody who sounds like Lawrence Bayne, but for cheaper. So
you're probably like, well, I know Lawrence Bayne for cheaper.
Yeah. Like at this point? Come on, man. I'll do it for a nice set of shoes. Let's just have some work.
Let me ask you this. So, Lawrence, if you could go back and have a second crack at a role or maybe take a different approach to something, what would it be?
That's interesting. I auditioned for Francis Ford Coppola's Dracula.
Oh, shit.
I did. I don't know why I got it, but I auditioned for Dracula. So I would have done it differently. Yeah, I would have liked me to do it. Oldman was fantastic, of course, but I think I would have liked to have bagged that role.
Wow. Is that another thing you just got called for? You just tried it out?
Just an audition. It was an audition to go. And yeah, it was for Dracula. Because what you don't know at some of the auditions, of course, is that who you're auditioning for. And there was no indication that this was Coppola, but then it became apparent when the film came out. that it was that he had done this sweep for a Dracula. Coppola's a sucker and he always hires names. So, that's not that I don't love almost every film he's ever made. But
What was your Dracula like in terms of how it would differ?
it was, it was, again, now we're talking 35, 40 years ago.
Yeah, I got you.
My Dracula was, I probably tried to avoid doing the Bela Lugosi, but there was some sort of flat Eastern European accent going underneath it. And you were given the stock lines. I mean, the Bram Stoker thing, and it's a thick, hard, almost impenetrable book at times. But the one thing I gleaned from the monstrousness of Dracula was that he was a gentleman as well. And so you try to bring that courtliness to his role. And so many people have done it now. There's a actor called Clay Bangs who just recently portrayed Dracula. It's a Netflix series, and it's magnificent. They bring Dracula into present day as well, and they do it seamlessly. It's really well done. Yeah, and Dracula. I would have liked Dracula. I would have liked that.
That's a good choice.
I can't complain. Yeah, I can't complain about any roles I overly missed. I think I auditioned for Children of Men as well. Loved it. I loved her dialogue, Pregnant Girl's dialogue, and it was off her that I was trying to get the part. But I have a friend in the business, Tony Napo, who's quite successful, who says you can't tell whether they're over the moon or you've shit the bed when it comes to an audition. You can't tell. You can go out of there feeling like, man, did I ever cover it? I hit all the points. I got all the colors. I hit all the flavors, and you don't hear back, and you really don't want to hear their appraisal either. I guess some actors do. They want to go, well, what did they think anyway? Well, first of all, they didn't pick you. What does it matter what they thought? It astounds me the people who think this business is competitive. It's not competitive. No one comes in second. No one is there going, well, I almost got it. No, you didn't. You just didn't get it. You didn't almost not get it. You didn't get it. Move on. And it's not like you should be up there at the front going, I got it, because you have no idea, the hoops and hurdles you're about to go through before you get it.
You might not get another one.
You might not get another one.
It sounds like it's almost like a Ricky Bobby situation, if you're not first, you're last.
That's all it is, man. I mean, I agree with that. If you're not first, you're last. It's not competitive. You can't go, I was almost as good. You were good or you weren't. You were right or you weren't. Better to say that. It's better to say you were right for the part or you were wrong. But if you go around after that thinking you're wrong as an actor, it's a cancer. It can eat at you. It's where bitterness finds its place to find purchase in you. And once bitterness comes into it, you're
going to the dark side.
Yeah, you're hitting the dark side there. So, I'm glad that after almost 50 years, I am not bitter about those opportunities that were missed. They were just auditions. They were just gigs I didn't get, man. They weren't opportunities I missed,
Also, when you look back on your career, what role would you say has been the most difficult if you have to pick one? Is there anyone that you lost sleep over, anything like that?
I lost sleep over Nihattan, which was a character I portrayed in the film Black Robe. Black Robe was about the Jesuits trying to teach indigenous people that, they lived in outer darkness and their god was number one. I am Cree, Inuit, Scottish, and Icelandic, by the way. I come to the parts naturally. I do indigenous roles, but Nihattan was difficult. I had one line in English and the rest was done in Cree. I was born at the corner of Yonge and Bloor and Sherburne in Toronto, so I don't have any, and Cree is a very old language and is not taught, not known by many. But we had an instructor, a tutor named Helen Bear, who taught us Cree. Monstrously hard language to learn. I mean, I won't lie to you. It's very hard to learn, and it's very hard to retain. And Helen's chief complaint with me was she would hiss after Bruce Beresford yelled, cut. Damn it, Lawrence! You sound like you're from Brooklyn. Talk like an Indian. So I guess I was a Nimjindu Wahida Nama Haidash over here, Nimjindu Wahida Nama Haidash. What makes my Katishni Patao Kaxi? Yeah, she said I sounded like I was from Brooklyn. So
Cree Joe Pesci.
Cree Joe Pesci over here, there. So yeah, that was funny, but I still felt like if she was thinking that, I mean, there was 80 extras on this film, and they weren't all Cree. There was Mohawk, there was Iroquois, there was Montagnais. We had a really, really big indigenous cast. But yeah, that was hard for me. I really wanted to get to the point where I was thinking in the language, but I could never do that.
And that's called Black Robe?
Yeah, Black Robe.
I'm going to write that down so I can give it a watch.
Directed by Bruce Beresford, and most notably stars my spiritual father as well, August Schellenberg, who we lost a couple of years ago. But Augie was my spiritual father from about age 14. He lived in the neighborhood, and then we ended up being in various projects together, sometimes as Indigenous and sometimes as crooks. We were both on Getting Gaudy, starred Lorraine Bracco. We got to trash a bakery dressed up in our suits over there, breaking a bakery to hassle a guy. That was me and Augie, and that was a lot of fun too. Lorraine was fun too. She played the prosecutor or whatever, and I played Sammy Gravano, and it was a sort of a mishmash composite character of just a mob guy. And Lorraine was funny as hell, man. She was fun to work with. She was LB, so I was LB. So we were calling each other LB. She had a great and wonderfully ribald sense of humor. We were on break while they were setting up, and I was just sitting in the witness box, and she was just leaning up against it, and we were talking. And I won't lie to you, a little flirting going on, but I think, not towards an end, just flirting. And besides, Edward James Olmos was on the set, and that's one scary motherfucker.
To this day.
To this day. Oh, yeah, man. And what a fantastic actor, but holy Christ. Like burning holes through her. Just looking at her through the whole thing, and I'm looking at him going, oh, shit. Anyway, she says to me, Lauren, she taps her left knee. She goes, this is Christmas. And then she brings this one, taps her right, and he goes, this is New Year's. Come and see me between the holidays. Lorraine Bracco said that to me. Oh, I nearly lost my shit there. Like, wow. She was fun. I worked with her almost for 12 days. Yeah. What were we talking about?
You've worked a good amount of TV shows and film. What's the biggest differences in those mediums for an actor?
The attention you pay to the director, I guess.
William Davis said something very similar to that.
Well, TV directors are coming in every week. You get on a series. I was on the series Strange Days at Blake Halsey High for 4 seasons. And within, middle of the second season, we were getting a guest director every week. And I began to notice that they wanted to, maybe put their imprimatur on it and stuff like that. But there was also directing styles, which had to deal with it. Now, this was a largely kid-populated show. So you got kid-friendly directors who, do things like speak down to you, speak politely enough to you. But, with that, could you just... So this director said, if we could just move you over here. And he began to touch my elbow. I said, don't do that, please. I said, I'm not 4. Tell me where to stand, and I'll do that for you, okay? Oh, I'm very sorry. I'm very sorry. I said, stop doing that. Stop apologizing for doing your job. But know this: I'm not 4, and I'm not a posable action figure. Tell me where to go. Tell me what to do. And then if you don't like how I'm doing it, tell me how you think I should do it better, and maybe I'll agree with you. Film directors, you give it up. You just go, you do your thing, hopefully unimpeded by them. And when they do impede upon you, hopefully it's not an inconvenience. It's a guide. It's an embellisher. It opens your eyes. It refreshes the role for you when they speak of it. If a film director hires you anyway, you're already in the bailiwick. You're already hired. You'd have to go some far piece to fuck it up if a director goes, want you for this role in a film. If they start getting overly frantic about how you're doing things, that's really not on you, unless you're some neurotic cookie flake who walks in there with a whole new take on the role since I auditioned. They don't want to hear about it, like at all. Television directors, when they come in and they guest, you have to tell them, there's a Bible that comes with an episodic show that they'd read. Here's what the characters do. Here's how they work. This will be applied to the script writers as well. They have to stay within the parameters of this Bible. Directors will come in and read that or won't. And then you'll sort of say, no, I won't do that. My character doesn't do that. My character in Blake Halsey High, for no reason at all that had anything to do with on camera, was in bare feet. All times I wore bare feet. I don't know why I took it on. I think because my character was somewhat predatory, and I wanted to feel the earth under my feet while I walked down the school hall while I was taking over the Science Institute. I wanted to walk like I was hunting. That was just a choice I made. And everybody agreed with it. The first 2 seasons, it was no problem. I came in, I think on the 3rd season, the director said, we need you to have shoes on for this. I go, why? Well, because we want shoes on. He said, no, but why? Are my feet going to be in the shot? No. I said, no, I'm not putting the shoes on. And that was that. Then the producer came down and said, he doesn't have to put the shoes on. Then there was a episode where all the kids got shrunk, and they were dodging my feet. I wore shoes for that one because they had to film my feet and then block it off and then have the effects afterwards. So obviously bare feet would have been a little incongruous when they were filling the entire screen.
I spoke with William B. Davis a few weeks ago, and he said, you don't argue with the director. You just say, yes, ma'am, or no, ma'am, yes, sir, no, sir, and then you do what you were going to do anyway when it starts.
That's right. It's the old story about Hitchcock, you know, and he gets the print back from the censors for Psycho, and they say, there's nudity in here, take it out. And he opens the can, reads, there's nudity, and take it out, fills out a form, says, done, puts it back in the same film, puts it back, and they go, right, there's no nudity, great, let's move on. So, yeah, you do, I mean, William's right about that. You yes, you nod, you say yes, you're never hard to work with. And then you do what you were setting out to do anyway. I'm okay with that if it works. If they come back and absolutely say, look, that particular spot you're hitting with that isn't working, we need you to try it this way. Of course I'll try it that way. It's not the end of the world. You know, with the NDAs you get now that are 25 pages thick and the swear you to silence shit, you'd think that we were actually curing cancer. And it's not that important, folks. It's entertainment. Everybody's job is important in it, but the overall thing I get from it is that somebody's going to sit down and watch me for 20 minutes. And I've learned to be a little more gracious about this, a little more humble. When people have seen my work that, 40 years ago they saw, and they come up and 20 years ago and then, 10 minutes ago, and they say, I loved you in that, and that was great, and what was it like? I used to try to not be dismissive and go, I don't know, I don't remember. I lived so in the moment that I don't really, I don't gather a lot of stories. I don't share stories. This is difficult for me, but on the aspect of that I know what I'm talking about, hell. I mean, you don't know what you're talking about, shut up.
I think everybody agrees with that. Say you're sitting down for the evening to watch a few of your favorite movies. What are some of those movies on that list?
Oh, man. I just watched The Hunt with Betty Gilpin. It came out right around Trump, and they pulled it because it was about a bunch of elitist, privileged people actually hunting the ones who don't believe. And it was hilarious. It's a very, very funny movie. Betty Gilpin, I saw her in L.A. She was playing Macbeth in an all-female Macbeth. And I fell in love with her weird, quirky little facial expressions. And I'm watching The Hunt, not realizing it's her until she made this facial expression. I went, that's Macbeth. And I've been watching all of her stuff since. She's brilliant. She's brilliant. And the movie is funny as hell. It's really good. Philadelphia Story, Cary Grant, James Stewart, Katharine Hepburn. I'm a big Katharine Hepburn fan. The Lion in Winter, I was also in the play, The Lion in Winter, as Richard. And that was Anthony Hopkins' premiere role. That was the first thing he ever did on camera, was
Wow.
Lion in Winter, as Lion in Winter. Yeah. Interesting enough, the set designer for that, Peter James, was the DOP on Black Robe many years later. So I got to talk to him about working, what it was like, working with the great O'Toole and even the greater Hepburn. And she said, mostly it was like funny because said Katharine Hepburn just couldn't handle the fact that Peter O'Toole could show up, just a bag of shit, and then the camera would go on and he'd just illuminate. Guy was a pro no matter how much he drank.
I was going to say the great ones have that ability no matter what.
Yep. For a while anyway. I mean, you can know. Well, you can't watch John Barrymore, his last couple of films, because he's just done. He's damaged beyond belief. His the alcohol had just basically made him unable to remember a line, and he wasn't as deft at reading the cards as Brando was.
Yeah, I was going to say, what was Brando's last film? Was it The Island of Dr Moreau?
The Island of Dr Moreau. I thought it was fantastic. I mean, I love car crashes, I guess. But I used to be the voice of Specialty Channel, because they're gone now. Showcase Action, which was just action movies. Don't know why Dr. Moreau was on the Action Channel, but I was doing the throws. I was the signature voice for the channel. Coming up next on Showcase Action. So I used to be able to I was allowed to fritter with the scripts a little. So that one was tonight at 7. Marlon Brando is the Island of Dr. Moreau, because, the man was so immense and yet so brilliant. And then there was Corey Feldman, Corey Haim ski movie in which I said, tonight the two Coreys do a lot of powder. So all that's gone now. I had that gig for 18 years. For that, the voice of National Geographic and the voice of Showcase. And then they replaced us with nothing.
So you were the National Geographic guy?
Yeah, for a while. Yep, about 5 years. 5 years there, and I switched around And then I was on, I did Discovery for a little while too. Just they were moving me around to inevitably move me out. Right? Took them 18 years, so I'm not complaining too much. But,
You got your money's worth out of them.
Yes, I do.
Is there anything on the horizon for you? Anything in the pipeline you can tell us about?
I cannot.
Okay. I hear that a lot.
Right, it's you know what? I think it's bullshit, to be honest, that I can't tell you about stuff that I've signed on and doing, and it's nonsense. However, it is nonsense that I must follow to a T. I mean, because I'd like to be interviewed, and so telling you that I'm doing something that'll get me fired kind of shoots myself in the foot. Yeah. I did audition for my first commercial in about 30 years, just about 2 days ago. Just an Ontario commercial, I'm guessing. That was weird.
Has that process changed a lot since you last done it?
The only other commercial I did was a really reprehensible racist stereotype of a Mexican bandito with the double bandoliers, and it was for Visine, and they had me looking the Frito Bandito, basically.
Yeah.
And I didn't have any words in that one, and prior to that I did an actual mime commercial as a mime where I didn't have any words in that. This one features words, but nothing to have to cram for. Don't know. Just did it 2 days ago, the audition, so who knows.
Awesome.
Yep.
All right, Lawrence, well, I'm going to let you get out of here.
All right, man.
All right, man, have a good one.
Take care. See you.
All right, bye-bye.
Welcome to the night. You think you know Night Demon? Then the Night Demon Heavy Metal Podcast is for you. Step into the darkness as we peel back the curtain to give you an unprecedented, all-access look into the mind and the heart of the demon. We're talking band history, song analysis, studio anecdotes, stories from the road. It's everything a diehard Night Demon fan could want and more. This is the only place to learn the inside scoop, the deep dive trivia, the untold tales from the band members themselves and those closest to the Night Demon story. Need more? The sacred Night Demon Crypt will be pried open to reveal demo recordings that have never before seen the light of day, all with in-depth commentary by the band and the people who were there for the writing and recording process. This is a gold mine, a treasure trove of all things Night Demon. Head over to nightdemon.net or wherever you listen to podcasts. Listen to podcasts.